Hello everyone, this is Jackie Williams, and I get asked quite often which adhesive to use when people are assembling their projects in my classes. So I thought I would do a quick video and show you some basic tips about when to use which adhesive. Let's first talk about wet adhesives. Currently, Stampin' Up! Offers the Tombow Monoliquid Glue and the Fine Tipped Glue Pen. Now, these are suitable for paper to paper. They're also sometimes suitable for embellishments onto paper if the embellishments are light. Now, the advantage of using a wet adhesive is it does give you a little bit of time to move your piece of paper or embellishment before it adheres quite securely. Now, though, I will say that the fine tip glue is what is called a low-tech glue, meaning it's really not meant or suitable for everyday use. So if you were assembling a card or scrapbook page and it was mostly paper that you were putting together, you would actually, I think, find that you'd get very frustrated with this glue because it takes quite a long time to dry and it's not really sticky that like you would need. The other thing I'll say about wet adhesives is they are really not suitable for using on ribbon or anything that is fabric-like. Now, our next type of adhesive are what I call the dry adhesive. So we have our tape runners, we have our dimensionals, glue dots, double-sided tape, and adhesive sheets. Now, let's start with the tape. So our tear and tape is a very good all-rounder. It works really well for paper to paper. It also can work on ribbon. And one of the great things about our tape is that you actually just tear it, if I can find the end. So when you use it, you peel off the end and then you just tear it like this. Because tape and actually all adhesives actually really do wreck your scissors. So I never recommend that you cut your adhesive with scissors. Or if you really want to, I would have a separate set of scissors for your adhesive that then you use on anything else in your projects. Now your glue dots are little circles, hopefully you can see that, little circles of very strong adhesive. And these are really good all-purpose adhesives. I do recommend everyone have glue dots in their kit. You can use it on paper, on embellishments, even fairly heavy embellishments. You can use it on ribbon. It's very sticky and small, so you can use it on even, pretty small things. Now, the next thing are dimensionals, and you'll see that we have a selection of them. So we have our standard dimensionals, and they come in black and white. And then there's also the mini dimensionals that also come in black and white. And then we also have, these are called adhesive strips, but it's basically just long, thin strips of dimensionals. And these work on pretty much all materials. They're just a great way to add a little bit of height and dimension to your projects. I use these virtually on every single project that I make. Now the tape runners, we have two types. We have your Seal and then the Seal Plus, and I realized that although I did have a Seal Plus, I think that someone might have accidentally picked it up at one point when they were at my house because I don't seem to have it anymore. So just wanted to explain the difference there. They're both little runners, so you just run these along your cardstock and tape just disperses. It's just a very convenient way to use tape because you don't have to peel off any backings. The Seal is like your standard paper-to-paper adhesive. Your Seal Plus is stickier, so it's a better choice for like boxes or things maybe that have movable parts that might get a little more wear on them. The bonus also to these tape runners is that they work quite well on vellum, meaning that they don't actually show or don't show very much on vellum. And all of the other adhesives do show through vellum. And then your adhesive paper, I will show a demonstration on how to use this. It's basically a large sheet of tape. This is just a strip of it. It comes in like a 6x12 size, I believe. And this is really nice for using on your intricate dies. and I will give you a demonstration on this. So pretty much everything that we offer works paper to paper, but they all behave just very slightly differently. Now let's go ahead and make a project, and I designed a project that's going to showcase or use all of the adhesive options so you can see how they work. Now we'll start with our thick basic white card base, and I have embossed a piece to go over the top as a background, also in thick basic white, and I've embossed that in the hide folder. Now for this, I could use any of these three options to adhere. I would recommend not using the tape runner because when you emboss a piece of cardstock, it actually weakens the cardstock a bit, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's been bent and maybe even sprayed with water before you embossed it. So the paper's a little weaker. So I have found sometimes if you try and drag tape along it, it will actually just tear the paper. So in this case, I wouldn't use this. So you could use either the tape or the glue. I tend to use the glue because it's quick, you don't have to peel it, and it gives you just a moment or two to be able to move your paper around to make sure it's exactly where you want it to be. Whereas with tape, once you put it down, it's down and it's not moving. All right, I'm just gonna set that aside. Then I've got a piece of basic white, and I have some strips of the Awash with Beauty Designer Series paper. So again, we are doing paper to paper. So in this case, again, I could use any of these three options. I think what I'll do is use, actually, I think I will use the glue again, just for the same reason that I got a bit much there, so that I can move the paper just a little bit before it's stuck down permanently. So I've just cut some strips of the Awash with Beauty paper, and I'm just going to lay those on over top of my adhesive. There we go, and that creates quite a nice background. Now before we go any further, I'm going to add some ribbon, and I'm going to put it over here about maybe 2/5 of the way into the card, about like this. Now, as mentioned, you don't ever want to use wet adhesive with your ribbons, and I'm going to use tape. That's my adhesive of choice when I'm using ribbons. So I'm just going to take a little piece of my double-sided tape and just tape that around the back. Now, just because it's double-sided doesn't mean you have to peel the backing. You can just use it like standard just tape and just leave that backing on there like this. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this onto my card front, and this time I wanted to stand off my card just a little bit, so I'm going to put dimensionals on the back of here, and I can use my white ones, and because this is a big piece, I'll go ahead and use the larger dimensionals. Now I do like to put quite a few on so that nothing sags anywhere. And then I'll go ahead and put this onto my card front. Okay, now I'm just going to set that aside for now. Now I have a smaller piece of basic white, and I have gone ahead and stamped some words in preparation. I didn't want this video to be stamping techniques. I just wanted to focus on the adhesives. And I have a piece of vellum. So in case you weren't sure what vellum was, it's this paper that is like a translucent paper. And I'm going to put the white on top of the vellum. The nice thing about vellum is when you then place it over your, say, printed papers or things, it kind of tones them down a bit, but you can still see what's underneath. Now with vellum, I don't recommend using anything wet. It tends to wrinkle and buckle, so definitely use something dry. I will go ahead and use my tape runner just to show you what that's like. So it's just a nice easy way to apply tape. Now in this case, I can apply dimensionals on the back or my adhesives here underneath the white, so you wouldn't see it anyway. But if you were in a scenario where you had vellum and you wanted to adhere the vellum, but you would see the adhesive, that's where I would recommend using the Stamp and Seal because it doesn't show very much. But in this case, you can hide all of your adhesive here behind the white piece anyway. Now, actually, I'm just going to back up a half a step here. Before I put my dimensionals on, I am going to just take a little bite out of the corner here to make room for a bow. And I've got an old circle punch. We don't currently actually have circle punches, so you could use a die or a different shape if you prefer. And actually, I'm just going to mark where that ribbon is going to be so that I make sure my circle's in the right place. Just do a little bite out of there, and then I'll carry on with my dimensionals. Then next, I want to add my flowers. Now, I'm going to put the stems on first, and you could use any of the adhesives for this, but I don't want them standing up off my card, so I don't want to use my dimensionals. The tape is really a bit wide and clumsy for this. So is my tape runner. This is probably not sticky enough, and so I'm going to use my Tombow liquid glue for this. And I found the easiest way to use the glue when using skinny things like this is brand new, so it's coming out quite quickly, is to just do very thin lines or small dots. And then just go ahead, just thinking where that should sit. Go ahead and place your two stems on the card front. Now my flowers, I do want standing up off the card, so I will use dimensionals. And these half daisy flowers, I'm going to just use a few of the small mini dimensionals on there as well. Next, I want to show you how to use the adhesive sheet, particularly when doing very detailed and fine dies, such as this word sending. So your adhesive sheet, you want to cut about the size you want, and then you just kind of play with the end and separate. And one side's just going to be waxy paper, and the other side will be basically a sheet of tape is the best description. And you're going to place that on your cardstock, and then you'll turn it over, and then you're going to run your die through your die cutter as normal. Then when it comes out of the die cutter, you will have on the back side some tape. Now I intentionally left those two end pieces non-sticky. And then all you need to do is peel off that backing, and you will have all of that area now has tape on it. Now you'll notice that the little I for the sending, I've actually put that in this little container because there is absolutely no way you can get that backing peeled off. So in that case, I would use one of my liquid glues. But in this circumstance, I would recommend the fine tip glue because it is so fine. So you'll notice when that comes out, it's this very thin needle tip. So you just need to drop a small amount of glue onto your project and then pick up the dot of your eye, preferably right side up, and then drop that onto the dot of glue. And then just let that sit. And it doesn't matter if that takes a long time to dry because it's not like it's going to hold up your project. Then the other thing about the fine tip glue pen is you'll see that the lid has this little needle element. It's very important. In fact, I would say it's critical that you get that needle back down into the tip so that it doesn't clog. The easiest way to do that is to keep it steady against your finger and then just push that down into the tip. And then keep it secured or closed tightly so it doesn't dry. Next, let's do our ribbon. So I've left myself a little space here, and I'm just going to tuck about 10-12 inches of ribbon underneath that ribbon that I secured down earlier with tape. Well, actually, I left the front free. I never like it when the front when the ribbon on the front of the card is absolutely stuck down. I just prefer to stick it on the back, but that's just personal preference. And then just tie a nice bow, or however you would like to have it tied. Now I wanted to add also a little bow of linen thread. Now you could tie that around, but I'm going to use a glue dot so that I can show you how glue dots work. So I've tied my bow, as you can see, and then you just roll back the paper and expose one of the glue dots, and then you just put your element, be it an embellishment or a small die cut or a bow like this, onto the glue dot, and pick up the dot and then just press it down onto your project. And glue dots hold really well, so that should be very secure. And then the last thing for the front of the card is I want to add some embellishments, and I've chosen to use the fancy sequins. I love these. You get quite a variety in there. And the easiest way I found to apply those is to actually drop your glue onto your project and then put your sequins onto the project. And you could use either one of these glues for this. I'm just going to use this one because, as mentioned, it's got a very precise tip. So I'm just going to drop a few drops of glue, oops, and that bubbled, onto my project. Make sure the lid is put back on correctly. And then I'll just go through my sequins and pull out the ones I want to use and drop those onto my card front. And there we go. I hope that answered some of your questions about which adhesive to use where and when and what they can do for your projects. If you have any other questions, or if you have a tip that you'd like to share, please leave them in the comments below. And please subscribe to my channel and share this video with a friend who might also enjoy this. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. This is Jackie Williams. Bye-bye.